What's going on, guys? It's T-Banj here. So this video is a bit different to anything I usually upload. I never do any sort of live commentaries, but I've got myself a little script out ready for myself, so that's probably why it sounds quite weird what I'm talking about right now. This video is pretty much just an in-depth explanation or like tips video and tutorial sort of thing of how beginners, intermediate players and even expert players can hit more clips, improve their sniping in Cold War. So feel free to watch this video, or have it playing on in the background listening to it. But I mean, if you leave the video too early, three things are going to happen. One, you might miss something and we'll go back to playing the same shitey way you were before you started this video. Two, you're going to hurt my channel because the YouTube algorithm pretty much favourites massively view time. So if it sees people leaving too early, it's just going to consider it a shit video and won't recommend it at all. And three, if you leave the video too early, your uncle might slip a finger in the next time he's over. But I mean, if you're into that, leave the fucking video anyway. So as someone who is top 500 in the game globally, with over 100,000 sniper kills at this point and 10 plus days played, there's not many people that are better to make this type of video than I am. I'm going to cover some in-depth things in this video that most YouTubers will have not covered already that are extremely important, to be honest with you. And with that being said, you might already know some of these things or have heard bits that I mentioned from other videos that you've watched before. But hopefully this video should include some tips that you might have never thought of. Everyone should benefit from this video in some way or another. So if you find anything useful to you at any point, be sure to leave a like and a comment on the video. Be sure to let me know that you've actually improved. If you've got any questions on anything, let me know. And if you like funny content along with some cracked highlights, consider subscribing to the channel. I do it pretty much daily at this point. If at any point you think something's not relevant to you, just feel free to skip ahead. First things first, as everyone's pretty much covered already, is the class setup. Now I know a lot of YouTubers have done this, as I say, but I want to say that Cold War is extremely customizable when it comes to your class. I'm not going to have specific class setup on all 4 snipers for this video. I want to make this video short and simple as possible, really. So feel free to watch some bigger snipers videos for what they use besides the ZRG, which if you want a video on that, I've already covered that on my channel a few days ago. For the M82, the Pellington and the Tundra, you always want to be running the Tiger Team barrel, Tiger Team Spotlight on every class, along with either the Serpent or Airborne Elastic Wrap. The Tiger Team Spotlight is not completely necessary, but if you're struggling to spot people, this attachment will show a little red dot over the people's heads that you might see in most people's videos that you probably haven't figured out yet at most distances. You can then decide if an underbarrel grip, scope, stock or a suppressor feels best for you. As I say, these attachments all change the feel of the gun in one way or another. Some people are crazy good with iron sights, for example, which is something you yourself might consider giving a go, along with how different the gun brings itself up to zoom with an underbarrel. I'd recommend going into a custom lobby with regular or veteran bots, just so you got a feel of kind of what a normal lobby will feel like, with a whole bunch of different class setups and seeing what feels best for you. Perks wise, remember that with perk greed you can have up to 6, and with lawbreaker you can use any perk in any perk slot, so you could run literally 3 of perk 1s in all slots, like tac mask, forward intel and flak jacket, for example. You could have them all on your class at one time. So also remember that you can change your perks depending on the enemy and throughout the game. If they're spamming spy planes, for example, consider just changing to ghost, or if you're playing in regular lobbies instead of sniper only, consider using tac mask and flak jacket. People spam fucking stuns and frags and all that shit in there. Even watch kill cams to see if people are sound whoring you, and just whack ninja on your class. Snipers only, I would recommend using your favourite sniper along with the perk greed wildcard, using tac mask, forward intel, tracker, assassin, ghost and ninja. But that's just what I use. As I say, customise your class to whatever you want and whatever feels best for you. Next thing I've got here, which there isn't too much to cover, is your settings, which are completely down to your playstyle, really. Some people, are fucking colourblind, so they have to change or even prefer to spot people, in a different way. Different colours makes them spot people easier, I should say. Don't change your sensitivity around too much. Personally, I would say higher is better, but only to the point where you can actually control it. If you're using a controller, be sure to use the precision aim assist setting. With this being said, drag scoping with that setting is ridiculously overpowered due to the aim assist on that controller. So you'll notice your scope will slow down while moving over players a slight amount, enough for you to be able to calculate the timing of when you should shoot. If you're able to use a controller, I would 1000% recommend it for Cold War. you'll have a huge advantage over keyboard and mouse players if you're able to get your movement up to a good standard, that is. For PC players, you'll need to run as high FPS as you can that your PC can actually handle. Graphics in this game don't make a huge difference at all. You're still able to see players on low settings. I personally play on medium to high settings, but I could easily play on low without an issue at all. One thing for PC players, if you're using an NVIDIA graphics card, is to go into GeForce Experience, find Cold War on the homepage. If it's not there, try scanning for your games in the settings, then go Games. So on Home, click Details on Cold War next to the Optimize button, click the little spanner on the right of it, and mess around with that bar so it's closer to performance and not quality. That's pretty much just going to get you higher FPS when you're playing. Next on my list is the lobbies. There are a lot of things to consider with this, which will determine who you play against and if they're going to be opportunities to actually hit clips or not. First thing people need to realise is that if you're having a bad game, stop rage quitting. You know, I'm massively guilty of this myself. I'm sure we all are at this point. Just play the game out and just keep trying. You never know if you might hit a clip or not. Ultimately, the reason for this is that you're having a bad game, your score per minute average is going to go down. So if you rage quit, the game won't count. I don't know if you lot know this, the game won't count, and you're going to get put straight back into the same sort of lobby that you just left. If you didn't know, your skill-based matchmaking games are determined by the last 10 games that you complete in full, and will average out the score per minute of those last 10 games and put you with players that have similar score per minute averages. That's why sometimes there are people who purposefully do shit in games to be put against the worst players, just so that they can fuck them over pretty much. If you're in a pre-game lobby and people's levels look ridiculously high, just don't bother staying really. Queue up again and try to find a different lobby. It's obvious that these players are just going to have more experience and will likely be better at the game, but that's just a bit of logic really. So here's a secret for you that a lot of you probably don't even realise. A lot of your favourite streamers and YouTubers, they're going to use players with low average score per minutes to increase the chances of getting a better lobby for themselves, for their content. While some of these players are generally good, it gives them a huge advantage in game. With this being said, consider inviting your friends that you know are worse at the game than you, or you know, a lot more inexperienced, just so you have a chance of getting into lobbies with those sorts of players as well, meaning that you can perform pretty much at your best while your friends scream and cry in the background. Now for the actual gameplay itself, there's a few things I want to cover. Firstly is your movement in game. While it's annoying to have players jumping and sliding everywhere, this is the best way to play the game, as scummy as it sounds. If you're able to master this while keeping your shot accurate, it's going to reduce the amount of times players are going to be able to shoot and kill you. You should also be reducing the amount of times you're mounting objects if you can. And for some instances, sliding over them. You'll pretty much know what I mean if you play the game, you know, decently, enough time. Secondly is your placement to hit clips. If you know where the enemies are, try and come at them from a side angle at least, so that you have an advantage of taking the first shot without them spotting you directly in front of them. There's no point rushing down a whole enemy team by yourself with them all staring right at you. You ain't going to stand a chance. You should also be using and taking as much cover as possible to allow your character to re-chamber the bullets or reload without being directly in the line of sight of the enemy team. Another thing is to make sure that your gun is fully reloaded before trying to go in for your clip. The worst thing is having 3 or 4 kills in the feed, then having to stand there and reload. It's just going to waste your time or pretty much guarantee you're going to get killed before you can hit your clip. Lastly is how you approach the clip or the enemy team in general really. You should really in all cases be taking as long as you need. There's no point trying to black scope and quick scope everyone if you know you're not going to hit them. You can take your time to line up your shot without hard scoping. I mean, hard scoping is when a player will sit holding a certain angle for hours on end until you run into their crosshairs before they take your fucking head off. Then they're just going to sit and wait for the next unfortunate soul to pass by just so that you can do the same thing over and over. But you need to realise that not everyone is going to be good at the game. I mean, as I said earlier, be patient, don't leave the game, as frustrating as they are. If you know they're there really, just jump into their line of sight in hopes they hit mark you, so that you can take their head off as payback and drop your nuts on their face afterwards. Okay, I've gone off topic massively here. You might notice sometimes in kill cams that the sniper scope always look quite glitchy and jittery. This is because we're pretty much just tapping the zoom button over and over and over, just to give ourselves the fastest aim down sight time possible. To put it into perspective, if your scope's already halfway zoomed in, then it's going to take you half the time to line up your shot. Lastly, to end this video off, if you made it up until this point, is to have you really focus on what you want to achieve with these clips and shit. I know it sounds stupid, but I can guarantee some of you are currently sat there crawled up in a ball like a fucking croissant in your chair, laying down on your bed, playing from like a mile away, listening or watching this. I understand that everyone is fortunate enough to have like a triple monitor set up with $1 million PCs with a drinks dispenser installed, with a reclining chair that allows you to shit and wank at the same time. Why do I say this stuff? This isn't even on the script. Some people haven't got enough hours to play the game in the day. You know, a lot of people work, a lot of people got school, a lot of shit like that goes on. We've all got lives at the end of the day. But if you really want to hit more clips, just adjust yourself and sit up and focus on everything in your game. Move your monitor to be facing you directly. Put some thought into what you're doing when playing the game. Some people are lucky and can naturally jump on the game all day, hit 10 clips, get off and do the same thing the next day for the rest of their lives. But that's obviously not you if you got into the point where you're searching up a video on how to hit more clips.
Nice.
Okay, fair enough.